morning. You're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Dani Laurel. It's the start of a new trading week. Let's go straight to our top story. Economists warn that the extension of the enhanced community quarantine in Metro Manila and nearby provinces will dim economic prospects and drive investors away. RCBC chief economist Mike Ricafort says the ECQ extension in the so-called NCR Plus bubble up to April 11th could shave at least 1 percentage point of the country's GDP. Security Bank chief economist Robert Tan Ross has said this could also lead to further downward revisions in growth forecasts as prolonged restrictions will continue to weigh on household spending and investments. Ateneo School of Government Dean Ron Mendoza says the ECQ extension could cause businesses and investors to be more risk-averse if the government relies on lockdowns to stem the rise in new infections. Budget Chief Wendell Avisado has earlier said the Development Budget Coordination Committee will meet sometime this week to review its macroeconomic forecast. The government sees the economy growing by 6.5% to 7.5% this year after plunging by 9.5% in 2020. ECO President Sergio Ortiz Luis says the extended ECQ will cost the economy billions in losses. He says the government's lack of foresight and inconsistent policies have contributed to these losses. Ortiz Luis says more businesses will likely cease operations as the pandemic worsens. Okay, guys, kicking off a brand new trading week. Of course, last week we were on a Holy Week break. So I'm going to kick off with some good news first. The IHS Market Philippines Manufacturing PMI index is at 52.2 for the month of March. That is actually an expansion. So any reading above 50 signals that our manufacturing in general actually expanded versus the previous month. This is the third consecutive month of our expansion, and it is the highest output reading since July 2019. But the bad news is, of course, that it is at a lower pace than what we've seen on February. Now, on to some bad news, so to speak. Although, now abating this morning, analysts are saying that the peso may be depreciating further versus the greenback this week due to, of course, this cautious sentiment amid the increasing cases in COVID-19 as well as this fresh extension of the lockdown in NCR Plus. RCBC's Mike Ricafort is saying that the peso strength that we saw last Wednesday before the markets had closed was due to some downward adjustment in the global oil prices. Now, recall that Reuters had reported that the oil prices declined by more than 1% on Tuesday after the Suez Canal had reopened after being blocked by that container carrier for almost a week. And a lot of analysts are looking at the PSA releasing the March inflation data for tomorrow. Right now, the greenback is hovering at 48.52 levels. Now, I want to take a quick step back and check in on some Asian markets, at least this week. Now, you can actually see that a lot of Asian markets remain closed on what they call Easter Monday. These are still holidays there. Although, we are going to be watching that closely because last week, the U.S. had released a jobs report which showed that the employers added the most jobs in 7 months. This, of course, as cases in COVID surpass 131 million, although 660 million shots have been given worldwide in terms of the vaccine. Here, though, it's quite a different story. Even as we are recovering a touch this morning, 5 minutes into trade, we are still at 64.60 levels. That is up by 0.3%. However, we will be, monitoring these levels throughout the week. Of course, this as analysts are looking at the downward bias for this week. Recall that we were already down on Wednesday by 1.6% to 6,400 levels. This, according to Tina Ulang, however, and it seems to be the case right now, bargain hunting will be providing support for our markets. I'm very interested to see which ones are keeping our bourse afloat this Monday morning. Quite a number, actually. You can see our lockdown stock of the year or the pandemic year, so to speak, PLDT, the best performer this morning, up by 2.3%. On the downside, you've got LTG Group down by more than 2%. And finally, just quick check on the airlines here. Cebu Pacific, however, canceling 38 domestic flights. That's due due to some restrictions in NCR Plus and Region 6. They, of course, have mentioned that only essential travel will be allowed in and out of Metro Manila until April 11th. Cebu Pacific here actually in the green this morning, up by 0.1% to 45 pesos and 10 centavos. Analysts had priced in a lockdown extension, but are businesses agile enough to cope with these uncertain measures? Here to chat with us, we have Dr. Henry Lim Bon Leong. He is the CEO of Sterling Paper Group of Companies, as well as the president of the Filipino Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Good morning, Doctor, and welcome to the broadcast. Doc, I think your mic might be on mute. Can you kindly unmute your microphone?
Sure. I think it's internet. No. Anyway, good morning, Donnie.
Sir,
can you speak again? I think there was a part that is,
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we're good now. Sir, the ECQ was not entirely unexpected. We've been seeing closures all over the globe, and also the rising cases were already expected to happen with these new variants. Another extension was also priced in the markets, according to a lot of analysts. The question is here, sir, are our businesses agile enough to cope with this compared to how they were last year?
Yeah, Donnie, I think actually in the beginning of the year, I was also predicting around 7.5% for this year. We are looking forward at that time on the second quarter going up third or fourth quarter. No? What did us this time? The sudden surge in COVID, this the start of the first quarter going to the second quarter, we were caught really by surprise. But at any rate, we will have to look at the third and fourth quarter. No? But in this case, we are not also expecting another lockdown during the second quarter. No? But I agree with the other economists that the lockdown in April will really result to a big losses, no, and to the businessman all over, and I do not know if there's going to be any stimulus program that the government will adopt, because of this lockdown. But we are still very resilient, and we are looking forward to the third and fourth quarter, and also the beginning of the first and second quarter for next year, which is an election spending year.
Sir, do you have any numbers or even anecdotal figures on how many businesses, at least in your chamber in the Filipino Chinese community, have actually truly closed since the pandemic began, and how much have recovered? The Philippine Statistics Authority has said that 1 in 4 who had lost their jobs during the pandemic have still not found a job. Are these numbers reflective of the real reality on the ground? Is it better or is it worse than these numbers?
I'm sorry, I think we will.
Yes, sir. Sir, I was asking, sir, whether you have some numbers on how many businesses have closed since the pandemic, at least in the Filipino Chinese business community, and whether it is better or worse than what is being reported.
Most of those who have closed on really on the retail outlets. We have our members, chains of shoe store. We have also chains of stationery outlets and all of this one, and I think around 30 to 30.
Okay, I think we have lost our guest for the time being. We'll try and get back to him later on. Sir, are you still with us? Okay, we will try and get back to Dr. Henry Lim Bon Leong, of course, during the break. But let's take a quick peek at how our markets are moving again this morning. I did want to report one specific sector here, and those are the banks. This is according to a Fitch Solutions report. They are actually seeing a growth of 8% by the end of the year. Recall that we've had a BSP data showing that the loans were slowing down. We had the biggest slump for bank lending in more than 14 years. We had retreated in terms of lending growth for the third straight month. With 2.7% loan growth in February. Now you can see our banks, however, quite resilient this morning. That is up by 0.6%, with only Security Bank sitting out this rally. Let's try again to get back Dr. Henry to the screen. Dr. Henry, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir, we have just a few minutes here, but I did want to highlight the fact that you are trying to import vaccines as part of a private sector effort from your chamber. Has the tripartite agreement with the government been signed? And give us a nuance this a little bit more. How many doses are you looking to import? Which brand? And when do you expect delivery?
Actually, right now, Donnie, there's a worldwide really shortage now of vaccines. It doesn't mean that if you have the money, you have the connections, you can secure vaccines left and right. So we were happy that, of course, through the intercession of our Chinese embassy, Ambassador Hong Xilian were able to secure 500,000 doses of Sinovac. And we hope that it will be imported within this month of April. And as of yesterday, we know that we've signed the tripartite already with Secretary Galvez, but I think this time we need also the signature of Secretary Duque, the Department of Health, and I'm sure now by today that the Secretary Duque will have also signed the tripartite, and hopefully we can move on very quickly.
Okay, so 500,000 doses of Sinovac hopefully to be arriving this month, with the tripartite already signed yesterday, and more agreements to be signed by the DOH today. And finally, sir, are you planning to increase this number and continue importing for the private sector?
We are grateful, with the Chinese embassy, because what we are thinking is that after this initial 500,000 doses, hopefully we could secure another allocation of 500,000. You should know that right now, even China is vaccinating 1.4 billion people in China, and every day they are vaccinating around 3 to 5 billion. So at this time, the vaccines are very scarce at the moment. So we really need a government intervention for them to release the vaccines to us. But hopefully, after the 500,000, we're looking forward to another 500,000.
Okay, so hoping for the 1 million doses in the next couple of months. Thank you so much for that update. That was, of course, Dr. Henry Lim Bon Leong, of the president, of course, of the Filipino Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Salamat, sir.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you.
Okay, checking in on the other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. Checkpoint staff have been ordered not to hinder the movement of agricultural goods. The same goes for the movement of farming and fisheries workers classified as essential personnel. Agriculture Secretary William Dar said the PNP and local government units have been notified of such exemptions to the quarantine rules. Dar said food logistics must also remain unhampered. The DA secretary also ordered the agency's regional directors to ensure the continuous delivery of surplus farm and fishery products to areas under ECQ. Now, the Overseas Filipino Bank, or OF Bank, has officially become the first branchless digital-only bank in the country's history. This comes after it secured a digital banking license from the Monetary Board of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas last March 25th. The Land Bank subsidiary commenced its banking operations in June of 2020, using its then license to operate as a thrift bank. Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez welcomed this milestone and said that the move will also help the Philippines' transition to the digital economy. Recall that OF Bank was created through Executive Order Number 44, signed by President Duterte back in 2017. This EO was signed to fulfill the goal of establishing a policy bank tailored for overseas Filipinos. And that's a first look into the business day. Today is Monday, April 5th, 2021. Catch Businessworld live for the market close. It's at 3:15 p.m. today. I'm Danny Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.